Good day to our listeners and viewers. I am Fiona Alexander Smith, Director of Information and Communication, and your host for this Government in Focus interview. On Monday, November 18, 2019, residents of Montserrat will go to the polls to elect representatives to serve as ministers of government. We know this is a critical part of the election process, and the public must be informed on how to properly cast their votes. To ensure that we are adequately informed on this process, I will be speaking with the Supervisor of Elections, Mrs. Claudette Weeks, and Returning Officer, Sir Howard Fergus. Good day to both of you, and thank you for speaking with me today about this very important aspect of general elections. First, it is important for our audience to understand the eligibility in terms of voters. So tell us who is eligible to vote on November 18th.
A Commonwealth citizen who is 18 years or more is eligible. One who has resided on Montserrat for 36 months immediately preceding the date of registration, or one who is domiciled in the country, and we can vouch for that from the office. That person would be allowed to vote. In addition, if you are a student out of the country following a full-time course of study, at the point of registration, you would be allowed to vote if we can ascertain that you are in fact enrolled in such a course. Also, if you have been sentenced to serve a term in Her Majesty's prison exceeding 12 months, and you have not served that term, you have not been pardoned by Her Majesty, then you would be disqualified from being a registered voter.
Okay, thank you. And on November 18th, what time will voting begin and end?
Voting begins at 7 o'clock, and that's the time when the presiding officer empties the box in the view of everybody to ascertain and demonstrate that there are no ballots in the box. This starts at 7 o'clock and ends at 6 o'clock. But if there are voters in the building where the voting is taking place at 6 o'clock, they're already there. They will be allowed to vote, notwithstanding 6 o'clock has come.
Okay, so just so our viewers and listeners are clear, if 6 o'clock comes and there are still individuals in the polling station, they will still be allowed to vote.
That is correct.
Okay. And how many polling stations do we actually have, and where are they located?
We have 12. We have 12 polling stations, 6 polling divisions, each with 2 polling stations. That gives us 12 polling stations. In Division 1, that's the Salem area, both polling stations are at the Montserrat Secondary School. Polling Division 2, polling stations are going to be at the St. Peter's Community Center, the old school, and the St. Peter's Clinic. Polling Division 3, mainly the Coterhead, Braids, Manjack, Shinlands area. Both polling stations are going to be at the Braids Primary School. Polling Division 4, both polling stations will be accommodated at the Davy Hill Community Center. Yes. And Polling Division 5, that will be the St. John's area largely, Barzies, Mungo Hill, that area. The polling stations would be at the Seventh-day Adventist Church downstairs, as well as the Church of God of Prophecy. And then last of all, polling division 6 would be at Lookout, in the Lookout Primary School. 2 classrooms there would accommodate the polling stations.
Do the voters have a choice in terms of which polling station they go to cast their votes?
Well, yes, if I may continue on that, you vote where you're registered. So that would determine which polling station. And usually we sort of divide the list along alphabetical lines. Maybe A to J would be at polling station 1, and E, F, G, H, I, J, K, K to Z would be at the other polling station. But we try to make the stations, we've chosen the stations next to each other, so that if you miss your polling station, you can quickly move over to the other classroom or the other building that's nearby.
Okay.
You can't vote at the other one, but it's a short walk,
Yes.
and the officers will tell you
Yes.
that you're not registered in this for this polling station, but the other one
Yes.
across the street, however.
Yes.
Okay, so just for the clarity of our listeners and viewers, does that then mean that someone who lives in the Salem area, for instance, who goes to is it the secondary school, that is where
Yes.
that polling station is,
Yes.
they would be registered at that particular polling station, yes, and not the one in Davy Hill?
That is it. Because we had enumeration and a full enumeration exercise just last year. We had persons moving from house to house, ensuring where people live. Mind you, one might have moved during the course of the 5 years preceding that. And that was the chance to adjust. Even now, there's a chance to adjust, a small window, because the preliminary list is still out and people are asked to visit it and ensure that they are registered in the way they would like to be registered.
But you vote where you're registered.
But you vote where you're registered. That's key.
Right, so now that we know where the polling stations are located, let's speak a bit more now about what obtains at those polling stations. Is there anything or any document, device, or item that voters should or should not take with them to the polling stations?
In fact, voters are requested to bring a photo ID, that is to say, a driver's license, social security card, or even a passport, so that they can be identified. However, if they have none of these documents and the presiding officer can identify them as belonging to that area that they're properly registered, they will be allowed to vote. And if another registered voter, ascertain in fact that yes, this is John James, as registered in the book, then that person will be allowed to vote. But generally speaking, they are requesting photo IDs.
Okay. So that is what individuals should take with them. Is there anything that they should not take with them?
We're not encouraging them to come with any writing implement at all. The pencil that they would need to cast their X with would be provided in the polling booths. Yes? And in fact, if they use anything other than a pencil, their ballots could be rejected.
Okay. Now, social media is a major part of our communication and social interaction landscape. Some persons may feel compelled to walk with a phone and, take a photo while casting their votes, or, take a picture of the votes that they cast, they would have made. Is that something that is allowed?
We would like to discourage that. I'm sure Sir Howard would agree with me, because the law says that it should be a secret ballot. It should be a secret ballot. The law does not expressly the use of a cell phone in the polling booth. If we're preserving secrecy, we might be in a little bit of trouble there. We might have an infringement there.
Okay, so that's just something they should bear in mind.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. We didn't have, of course, cell phones and selfies were not prevalent or even around when these laws were made. So one may have to take those into consideration
Yes.
in the general reform of the
Yes.
electoral laws.
Maybe I could just insert that there is an Electoral Reform Commission who has not yet reported, so I think they're still at the data collection stage. So something like this could be taken on board by them for their report.
Right. Now, take us through the actual voting process now, step by step. On election day, I arrive at the polling station. What happens?
You are then identified, you give your name and address, and assisted by the poll clerk, the presiding officer will agree that you are qualified to vote, that you're registered, and you are the person noted
Yeah.
in the books.
Yes.
He or she then gets a ballot and holds up the ballot for you to, you see. In fact, shows you the ballot and instructs you how to vote by saying, you make a cross. We use the word X commonly, but I think the law says a cross.
Yes.
Opposite the name of those persons for whom you wish to vote in the space provided. And we stress in the space provided because we do not want persons to put the cross in the space where the name is, even if it is opposite or to the right of the name of the persons.
Or on their faces.
Or on their faces, for that matter. The cross must be put in this space provided.
A little section that's provided, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they will make sure that they are not pointing specifically to any names. They'll be so instructed and trained. And having done that, they then fold the ballot and there's a box for the initial. And they will tell the elector, the voter, go in the booth using the pencil provided there, make a cross or make the cross for the persons you wish to vote for and bring this ballot folded so that I cannot see the names of the persons for whom you have voted, but I can see my signature, my initial. Right. In this way, the presiding officer is assured that the ballot that comes back is the ballot that was given to the particular voter. When that voter comes back with the ballot folded to preserve secrecy, the presiding officer will then take off the counterfoil. There's a counterfoil on each ballot, and place that counterfoil in a bag, a paper bag, provided for that purpose. That counterfoil, in fact, has a number on it, a number corresponding to the number
On the ballot.
on the ballot. And that counterfoil goes into a separate paper bag. The presiding officer then completes the folding of the ballot, goes to the box, well, she's beside the box, he's beside the box, and places the ballot in the box. It has an opening, an aperture in the box. And then, that having been done, the voter has completed the task of voting and then leaves the polling station promptly, we hope.
If the voter steps out of the polling station, but after doing that realizes, oh no, I think I voted for the wrong person, can that individual turn back and say, I just voted, nobody else went in after me, but I need to make a change?
Let me make this point before I answer that specifically. When the voter goes into the booth, if at that point he or she makes a mistake, whether it's deliberate or inadvertently, that voter can be deemed to have spoiled the ballot. And he can come back, she can come back, ask for a new ballot. And that ballot which is going to be marked spoiled by the presiding officer is placed into a bag provided for the purpose. Because the presiding officer has to account for every single vote that has been given by the returning
Every single
officer.
ballot.
Yes. Every single ballot, yes. So that is then called a spoiled ballot. So that must not be confused with someone who spoiled the ballot,
But
which
allowed
will
it to go in.
which will be detected at counting. That is called a rejected.
Once it gets into the box.
Once it gets into the box, it's going to be a rejected. But you ask a pertinent question. I don't know whether you want to answer that, Mrs. Weeks, or should I? About if you came outside the polling station.
You just stepped out. You
You
haven't
just-
left.
No,
just
it
stepped out.
is
You're still
it
in
is
the
a
precinct.
criminal offense to leave the polling station with the ballot paper.
Well, no, not with the ballot paper. You would have given your ballot paper.
And it was
You-
already put in the box?
Yes, and you step out and realize that, I think I might have made a wrong X. Let me go back in and vote for somebody else.
No, they cannot vote again.
Absolutely not.
Because if you give that voter another chance to cast their X in the polling booth, they would have had two chances at it. They would have had a maximum of 18 X's, a chance to cast up to 18, and that is not right. Each person has up to 9 votes.
And the ballot that was placed in the box cannot be recalled.
It cannot
No,
be recalled.
no. So there's no
Cannot
remedy
be
for
recalled.
that
There's no remedy.
misadventure.
Okay, all right. Now, I noticed on the ballot paper, Sir Howard, and if you just open that again, the ballot paper not only includes the names of the candidates, but also their pictures, their
Photographs, yes.
photographs.
Yes.
Yes? And of course, that is very important because some voters may not know individuals, by their names, but they know their
Yes.
faces.
Yes.
And you did say, Sir Howard, that they would have to put a cross. Now, some persons would take that literally as opposed to an X, which is what would be required. At the polling station, would there be some guidance there to ensure that persons understand that by cross,
Yes.
they do in fact mean an X?
Yes.
Yes, well, in the booth, in the voting compartment itself, there is usually an example,
Yes.
which is an X,
Yes.
because that's what the law has,
Right.
notwithstanding it says a cross. But we, in the electoral office, have agreed, and this is what has obtained over the years, that a cross signifies that 2 lines have crossed. So as long as 2 lines
Okay.
have crossed,
Okay.
whether it's a plus sign
Or a
or
multiplication.
multiplication sign,
Right.
it's a cross.
Okay.
So a cross is a cross is a cross.
Okay.
Crossed in the space provided.
Yes, as long as
Once
the-
they're
only
crossing
2 lines
in the
cross
space
in the
provided.
space provided, that is a valid
Yes.
vote.
Thanks for that clarity. So what factors would render a ballot invalid or would cause it to be rejected at the time of counting?
Well, of course, there are only 9 seats to be filled, so if a voter casts more than 9 X's on a ballot paper, more than 9, that ballot paper would be rejected. If they attempted to vote more than once for each candidate, like putting 2 X's or 3 X's against a candidate's name and photograph, that would be rejected. If they even use the pen, anything other than the pencil provided, if they attempted to use any other symbol other than an X, not a tick, not initials, nothing like that, no numbers, just the X. If they don't use the X, then those ballot papers would be rejected. And an empty ballot paper is rejected. Did I say that? An empty one is rejected as well.
And don't put the X on the face of the candidate.
That's right.
I can't stress this too much. It's in the space
Yes.
provided. There is a space to the right of the name,
Yes.
to the right of the box that has the name.
Yes.
There's where the cross is put. And we are very pleased that the number of rejected ballots over the years has been very low. And we'd like to keep it that way. That's why we want people who are not familiar with the voting process in Montserrat to come out to the meetings and to avail themselves of all the
Yes.
opportunities to learn the voting process.
Yes. And eventually even through this medium.
Of course.
Yes.
No, you did mention, Mrs. Weeks, that if an individual votes for or puts an X or cross in the space provided for more than 9 candidates, that would be rejected.
Entire ballot paper would be rejected.
Right. But we do have the option of voting for less.
Yes, we say up to 9. So 1, if you cast a single X on the ballot paper, that would be a valid ballot paper. 2, 3, right up to 9.
Okay.
Right up to 9 would be valid.
I just thought that is a point that had to be made.
It
so
has
that
to be made.
individuals don't think that they have to put 9 X's for it to be
That's
considered
right.
valid.
That's right.
Now, let us speak now about individuals with particularly physical disabilities. Are there provisions in place for these individuals to be able to vote?
Yes, physical provisions. We're trying to get ramps where ramps are needed to give people the access they need, whether it's wheelchair or otherwise. And then, of course, the law speaks to incapacity and including blindness, illiteracy, and so on. Yes, they can be assisted in voting. The presiding officer may offer that assistance, in which case the vote is witnessed by the poll clerk, or the person may choose to bring a friend, and a friend could even be a relative. It's just a word. Bring someone to assist you. That person is called a friend. They would take an oath to that effect, that they are a friend, and they would cast the X for the person. But that too would be witnessed. It would be witnessed by the presiding officer. I don't know if Sir Howard would like to add anything further to that.
No person can be a friend
More than
to
once
more than one
in the election.
voter, incapacitated voter,
Yes.
in the election. You can't be a professional friend.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Point taken. Any final comments at this point that you'd want to leave with the voters as they get ready for November 18th?
I would like to encourage persons who are registered to turn out in full numbers and exercise their franchise, exercise their right to vote. And I would like, prior to polling day, that people avail themselves of the information that we have been disseminating. We also have a pamphlet prepared for voters with key information. Key information, and we're circulating this. Maybe you can get a shot of it.
Sure.
Yes, we're circulating this throughout the entire population so that people can read as well as listen to what we're saying. So,
Yeah, just to say the ballot in recent times has been colorful, and this has been an administrative matter for us, where parties have colors attached to their group. We have asked them to assist the voters to make sure they take the photographs for the ballot against that color background, and preferably maybe using the same photographer so that the color.
yeah, we want the same. It would be nice to have the same shade.
Yes, same shade, uniformity.
Yeah.
In the shade.
Yeah.
And there are about 3 parties that have indicated colors so far.
That's right.
And we then encourage, will encourage independent voters, independent candidates, not to use those colors. We can't impose it, we can't enforce it.
Yes.
But people normally are very cooperative, and they use maybe a neutral color like white, like a white background.
Yes.
This is the reason for the colors in the sample ballot that I have in my hand.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that clarification there.
And that innovation came about because our law does not provide for symbols. In some countries, there are symbols that parties would use, whether a torch or a hammer or whatever. And so, by doing this, we can show parties. Parties can be represented without saying so on the ballot paper.
But the names, in any case, are in alphabetical order,
That's right.
regardless to which party
That's very good.
the electors belong to. The
Yes.
names on the ballot are in alphabetical order. So if your surname begins with a Z, it's likely to be down
At the
there,
bottom.
Right.
at the
Yes.
bottom. And if it's Abraham, it's
Yes.
likely to be on the top.
Right.
Yes.
And so by saying that, persons can't expect to see all the colors being uniform, whatever color for one
In a
party.
cluster.
In a cluster.
No.
Right. Yeah.
No.
Thank you for
Yes.
speaking with me today, Sir Howard and Mrs. Weeks. And I do believe that the listeners and viewers are more informed and better prepared following our chat here today about the voting process and what is and isn't allowed.
Thank you very much.
A pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Now, to ensure that our viewers are clear on the voting process, here is a demonstration of the steps you will take at the polling stations on Election Day, November 18, 2019.
The polling station is now open. Can I have my first voter, please? Morning. Name, please.
Tim Brown, look out.
Number?
What's your name? What number?
Number on the voter's list?
Oh, 20. Okay, your occupation is? Citizen.
You're going to take this ballot paper and you're going to go into the booth where the pencil is provided, and you're going to place your X in the space provided opposite the names of the persons for whom you wish to vote. When you finish, you bring it back to me forward so that I can see my signature. Next voter, please.
Each is by my way.
You're going to place your X or your mark or your cross in the space provided opposite the names of the persons for whom you wish to vote. And when you're finished, you bring it back to me folded, just as I've given you so that I can see my signature. I'm going to remove the counterfoil.